Hi, Britt. Welcome to our counseling session. I'm so happy that you're here today. What brings you to our session?
Hi, thank you. So lately, I've just been kind of trying to mentally process a lot of the change that has been happening in my life. And I think one of the biggest changes has been a career shift for me.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
So I've bounced around a lot. I'm 27 and I've bounced around a lot with my careers. I started actually wanting to be a veterinarian, and I went
Mm.
through my whole bachelor's degree for that. And I got my degree in animal biology and realized maybe year two or three that I couldn't stand it.
Oh,
And
couldn't
yeah,
stand it. Oh.
yeah. Yeah, and I still went through with getting the whole degree. So I got my bachelor's in animal biology and then decided I really didn't want to go to vet school, but I felt very lost after graduating.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you say is that, you went through all this schooling and through vet school and biology, and now you realize that that's perhaps something you don't want to do. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so after I grew up riding horses, so I trained horses kind of throughout college and did it just to make money as a student.
Hmm.
And so after I graduated, I began doing that pretty much full time and got hired to work in an investigation job for a private investigator on the side.
Okay. That's a big change there that I've noticed from vet and biology to um, just detective work, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it was really interesting, but I think again, I kind of lacked that sense of fulfillment. And so when the pandemic hit, I moved to Southern California again after living in Northern California and became a horse trainer full time and started my own business doing that, which I have to say I've really loved, but it's not the most sustainable and it puts you at a lot of risk. And I've had a lot of injuries from that career.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there's uncertainty of you making that change in your life. And so what, so tell me, what has it been like?
I think a lot of the uncertainty is just not knowing where my future is going to go, how it's going to go. And I like to think through things a billion times before I make a decision. Here, it was kind of like I I was thinking constantly, but didn't know which
Mhm.
direction to go. And I felt like I need to go to vet school or I need to get another degree because I felt like that's what people wanted me to do. And I realized I was kind of starting to make decisions for other people and not myself. And then that's why I kind of went into training horses. It was a decision I made for myself. And despite loving it, I realized I needed to, have a career that was more stable as I get older because I'm in my 20s now. But, you don't want to be in your 40s and in the emergency room frequently or getting a broken bone frequently. And that's kind of where I was at with my career, despite loving it.
So trading horses is your passion, from what I'm gathering, yet it comes with potential consequences that concern you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and ironically, I've had a lot of clients who, before I started this program,
Hmm.
said to me, "You should really think about becoming a therapist. You're really easy to talk to, and we always feel like we come to you to talk about our problems." And I kind of brushed it off for a while. I was like, "Oh, that's stupid. I would
Hmm.
never do that. I'm a teacher." And then I looked into more of it. I got certified as a health and life coach and realized that I really loved kind of that line of work and the
Certified
impact.
health coach. Oh, certified health
Yeah,
coach. Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah. Which my mom's a yoga teacher, so it kind of like was
Mm.
along the same lines of her area of expertise. And I always thought I would never do that. But I love it. And so I realized that kind of work is really fulfilling for me, but I wanted, again, more. And that's what drove me to want to become a counselor, to make more of an impact and more of a difference in people's lives.
So if I'm hearing you right, going through all these different schooling, vet school, detective work, and working with horses has brought you to a situation where you have realized that working with people, specifically in counseling, is what it seems to be the most rewarding to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
very much so. Very much so. And I never expected that. And
Mm.
I come from a family where my dad is ex-military and he's Austrian. So European military men are not emotionally open in any way. And so I was always taught that, like, you don't go to therapy, you handle your shit on your own. And that's all there is to it. And you don't need help because it'll all work out somehow without you asking someone for help, especially a stranger. So I think that was another big change, shifting from that mentality to now seeing the benefit in doing the work that I'm passionate about.
Correct. So as what I hear you saying, now that you have made the decision into counseling, you had to face issues that perhaps your family, specifically your dad, is not necessarily in congruence with what you're seeking. Yet that's not stopping you because you're finding passion and finding a gift in it. So,
Yeah, very much.
yes. So, Britt, I appreciate you being here. Time is coming to a close. And just to summarize, your visit here is to talk about all the changes that you've been going through your life, specifically with your career. You discuss your schooling, going from the medical career with working in biology with animals, to working as in the detective field and exploring also what you wanted to do with your life, and now coming to the conclusion that you have found your niche in counseling. And so now you're just trying to balance and find what is the best way to uh, gather all these dreams and goals that you have so you can find some congruency in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I thank you for your session, and I hope to see you next time.
Thank you. All right. Time for our reflection. I thought that was very helpful. I threw a lot out there, so I was like, oh, I'm kind of rambling. I'm like,
Yeah.
my thought process is the furthest from linear today. I was just like, yeah, all over the place. Okay,
Mhm.
so for the first part of the reflection, I think one or two times when your reflection was the most accurate would be at the very end when you kind of summarized everything and brought it all together. I'm actually really impressed with how well you captured my nonlinear thinking and kind of condensed it into a couple sentences that really took into account everything I was talking about. So that was a very, very impressive and useful skill in my opinion. Um, I would say like you were pretty accurate throughout the whole session with paraphrasing what I was saying and reflecting back and accenting things that I said. The only time I think I kind of got to, I wouldn't even say it wasn't accurate, it just got me thinking more, was when you said that I was uncertain about
Uh, mm,
the change,
mm,
not where I was going. And I
mhm,
think I was always it made me realize like I've always been sure that I wanted to change, but I was
mm,
very unsure with what it was going to be. So
mm,
that kind of was a really good word to get me thinking more. And it
mm,
clearly like got me on a different track as I kept talking. So in a way it was really, really useful actually.
mm,
Um, but my general feedback, I feel like the session felt really easy. It flowed really nicely. I felt like you were really present and I felt like you were listening to me. And it kind of made me want to open up more and talk more. I didn't feel like, oh, she feels like I'm wasting her time. Because
mm,
we've all been in conversations like
mhm,
that where you're talking to someone and they're like kind of not really with it. And like you could tell that they're kind of thinking, could you hurry up? And I
mm.
talk a lot, so I often feel that way with people where it's like, oh, they want me to shut up. So thank you for not. Um, Communication was really warm and welcoming too.
Yes. Sorry, Britt, did you have more? You froze for a sec there.
No, no.
Okay. Yes, I agree. I feel like you were really warm and you were very you were just really calm and observant of trying to pull the pieces together and also draw her from story to emotion and kind of
Mhm.
letting her go back out to story and kind of come back into emotion. I think you did a really good job of like when it would get abstract, kind of getting concrete and kind of letting it flow without being rigid. Um, and I think your presence, like you just seemed present. Like
Mhm.
your face really communicated, your demeanor really communicated like I'm here, I'm engaged, I care. Yeah, you seemed really engaged. I think that's like the word that I would sum up with it is you seemed very engaged in the story and in her as a person. So that's my overall feedback. As far as the checklist, so visual eye contact, you both did great maintaining eye contact throughout the session. Claudia, like you just really like gave eye contact in a not threatening way. I feel
Mhm.
like you
Mhm.
invited story with your eye contact. Um, and then vocal qualities. At the beginning, I could tell Britt was a little like for a minute, just like a little bit like tight with her
Mhm.
words. And then by the end, the words were just like flowing like story. And so I just noticed like the quality of her tightness and her voice just like released with you, which was really cool to watch. And Claudia, you said things in a soft way that was like it's not a question, it's just kind of like I'm gently putting it back out there. So that was really interesting. For body language, your nodding was beautiful. Claudia, you really like engaged everything Britt said and gave it space when you needed to. And it was really interesting to watch Britt talk with her hands.
Mhm.
And when she would get more demonstrative, you would kind of like lean in and nod
Mm.
a little bit more,
Mm.
you know? And so I feel like your synchrony was kind of happening a little bit
Mhm.
to invite more. Um, uh, what was really interesting is at one point, Britt, you froze while you were talking, and we missed a couple sentences. And
Oh, no.
Claudia, no, it was really cool because Claudia, you handled it like a champ. You didn't get flustered, and you raised your eyebrows. And I don't even know if you realized you did this. You raised your eyebrows, and you just kind of leaned in a little bit and when she came back on, you just picked right up where she left off.
Mm.
And you just stayed very calm. Like your demeanor was calm even when there was a glitch. So good job. Um, movement, harmonics. Yeah, I think it was interesting to watch your heads nod kind of in synchrony with each other. You know, if Britt was nodding, you were like, yeah, and you would kind of give her a nod back. So to me, it seemed like you were creating harmony with
Mhm.
the client. Um, let's see what movement harmonics, nonverbal discrepancies. Um, I didn't really notice anything. The only time I did was at one point early, you said you felt lost, Britt, and you were still earlier in your story that you just still seemed a little bit tighter with it.
Mm. Mhm.
And then once you circled back around to the end, you were kind of describing the flow of your story and it wasn't as tight. So I didn't see the discrepancy at the end, which
Mm.
kudos to you, Claudia. Um, let's see, verbal tracking and selective attention. I feel like you did a good job giving, just little leads, little words there, um, little accents. And I feel like you tracked her really well, like
Mm.
Britt said. You tracked the different themes and the different sections of her story.
Mm.
You were helping her tell them freely and kind of like helping her kind of pull into the emotion of it. So I felt like your verbal tracking really was great there. abstract and concrete. It was interesting to see the
Mhm.
flow of Brit going in and out of abstract and concrete. And at one point I noticed you said something to her about like her change and uncertainty, and she had been speaking abstract and immediately went into concrete
Mm.
after you said that. And she spoke for a little bit, went back to abstract, and you said another word about passions and consequences, and she went into concrete. And so it was really cool to see,
Mhm.
like, you weren't forcing it, you were just kind of letting her flow
Mhm.
naturally between those. Um, verbal discrepancies, I didn't note any, so good job, you guys. And empathetic communication, it was really interesting. You know, you kind of let things build, and at the end, you said the thing about passion. You know, this is your passion, but it has consequences. And then at the end, working with people. And you talked about those two things, and it just felt like you were really trying to not just hear her story, but help her feel like heard in her story.
Mhm.
Um, and at the end, I think it those things I think were additive to it in a good way. Um, and I do think the only thing I noticed is in your summary at the end, you said something about like it being incongruent with her dad. And I noticed Britt
Mhm.
just kind of her facial expression changed.
Mhm.
And I think when you kept summarizing, it might have been a little subtractive
Mhm.
because you made a phenomenal point right there in
Mhm.
giving her a minute to clarify or, you
Mhm.
know, just take more from it. But it was, in the end, the summary was beautiful. You
Mhm.
chef's kiss, you crushed it. Good job, you.
Okay, I'm stopping my recording.
Okay.